Hello and welcome to the North Shore Drive podcast here on a Wednesday for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I'm Chris Carter. He's Fittipaldo. I'm back here in Pittsburgh after our trip in Dublin. And the Steelers have a bye week, but there's still plenty to discuss. We'll talk about a lot of things here, including the wide receiver situation with the Calvin Austin injury and how the Steelers should move forward and the state of the AFC North, all here in the North Shore Drive podcast. As always, this show is presented by FanDuel and is brought to you by Edgar Snyder Associates. You also do workers' compensation. When you've been hurt on the job, who decides when you're better? Who decides when your treatment is over? And who decides when your benefits are over? The answer might surprise you. It's the insurance company's doctors. How does that make you feel? If the answer is not great, call 1-800-94-EDGAR because Edgar Snyder Associates will fight for the workers' compensation rights that you deserve. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. Ray, you got to talk to some Steelers and some coaches after their Week 4 win over the Vikings at their facility. But one of the part of the fallout from that game was Calvin Austin has an upper body injury, and he looks like he's going to miss some time, though, according to Ben Skoranek, when he talked to you, not a whole lot of time, but that's still the Steelers' number 2 wide receiver right now. What do you see as the outlook for how the Steelers can handle not having him for a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's going to be piecemeal. I think if they want to have a run emphasis 1 week, depending on the opponent, obviously Ben Skoranek is going to be your guy. He's very good in that role. I think if you're going to be maybe geared toward the pass, then Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson come into the equation a little bit more. Just talking to Zach Azzani yesterday, kind of get the idea that there's just maybe a little bit more of a comfort level with Scotty Miller right now. He's a veteran, obviously, has more experience in the league, knows all 3 positions really well, so he can go from spot to spot without any issue. And it's not that Roman Wilson is doing poorly. He's not. They just haven't figured out where he's really strong yet, what his strengths are, and how he can help the football team. So still think Roman Wilson has a role on this football team going forward, but if we're talking about like in the short term, what they're going to do in the next couple of games if Calvin Austin misses, I think it's going to be more Miller and Skoranek in that role.
I can see that for sure. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a details guy, and these are veterans who can get those details down, whether it's just running the right shade in their route, noticing a certain matchup opportunity. Those veterans are going to have those advantages to their game, where Roman Wilson certainly brings you the speed, but he might miss a couple things here and there. And we know for Aaron Rodgers, that's very important to how he wants to win. A lot of what Aaron Rodgers is doing to win for the Steelers right now is cerebral. So he needs other guys that can think, if not on his level, to a level that he knows he can depend upon them to see things along with him when they see cracks in the defense. So that does make some sense here. But Ray, there's also the sense out there, and not from any of us here that cover the team, but there's also a sense out there that maybe the Steelers should finally make their big move to go get a wide receiver. Some people have thrown out the name A.J. Brown for the situation. I'm sorry, but I still don't see it happening. I think that this Steelers team, DK Metcalf just had a great Sunday against the Vikings, but the last 2 games, it was Jaylen Warren leading the team in receiving. I don't think that the Steelers, if they go get a really big name at wide receiver 2, I don't know what their role in this offense would even be, because they were barely using Calvin Austin as it was.
Oh, I mean, look at their highest paid tight end and his usage in the last game. I mean,
exactly.
Arthur Smith is not. He's not going to be tied to like, yes, we're paying this guy this amount of money. He has to play X number of snaps. He doesn't operate that way. He's going to have packages for some opponents where, like on Sunday, you're going to have Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington in there a lot. And Pat Freiermuth is just going to have to deal with it. It wasn't just Pat Freiermuth, right? It was Jonnu Smith as well.
Yep.
Who also didn't have a big role in that game. So Arthur loves to run guys in and out of there. Down to down, game to game. So, that bringing in like another big name, especially when it's a short-term injury, like maybe like if this was like a season-ending thing, maybe you could talk me into like Omar doing something before the deadline. But
right
as it stands now, we all know they like Calvin. First month of the season, we know how it's going to look. DK and Calvin are going to get the vast majority of the reps. I don't know if you looked at this. I looked at this yesterday just because I wrote about it. But just how little Skoranek, Miller, and Roman Wilson have played this year. Roman Wilson actually, I think, outsnapped Miller and Skoranek, but I think they all had like fewer than 40 snaps per game. And if you look at it, that's what, an average of 10 per game. So, yeah, I mean, there's a clear like delineation of how it's going to go when both guys are healthy. And I just don't know if there's a need for another receiver in the mix now, especially when it looks like it's going to be a short-term deal for Calvin.
When you're looking at the snap counts through 4 games, DK Metcalf has 200. Calvin Austin has 168. The next receiver, Roman Wilson, with 44.
Yeah.
So you have that is what, just short of a quarter of the snaps of Calvin Austin. And then behind Roman Wilson is Scotty Miller with 35 and Ben Skoranek with 35 as far as offensive snaps. To your point, they're just not using the wide receiver position that much because their top playmakers snaps as far as guys that aren't quarterbacks or offensive linemen. DK Metcalf at 200, Calvin Austin at 168. Behind him is Jonnu Smith at 130, Darnell Washington at 117, and Pat Freiermuth at 112. Pat Freiermuth has been on the field the third most of the tight ends, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. And listen, 4 games is not like a small sample size anymore. That's might be a pretty clear picture of how it's going to look. Now, there are going to be some games where, Pat's going to be more involved than Darnell, but they really like having 3 capable tight ends. And even Connor Hayward played more than Pat Freiermuth in the last game. So they actually have 4 guys that they really like to use.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is that it sometimes can be matchup based. Obviously the Steelers saw something in the Vikings defense that said, we want to run the ball. And they were able to run the ball pretty effectively against the Vikings. But when you look at, and when you look at their tight ends, who do you want on the field blocking? Obviously, Darnell Washington and Connor Hayward's going to help you with that a little bit more than Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith. But I imagine there's going to be teams coming up in this schedule where they're thinking, hey, we could throw the ball on these guys a little bit. And that's where Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith can get more of their handles. And the thing is, Ray, is that I think that's part of why they like this tight end situation. Arthur Smith is using this right now. And why you're not seeing a high number of snap counts go to the wide receiver position, because it's like, hey, we can create mismatches, whether they're weak against the run or the pass with this position here that can help everyone else out. And so you're not going to see as much 11 personnel where you see 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back. You're going to see those 12 and 13 personnel groupings.
Yeah, absolutely. The way this roster is constructed, I think if you look around at most other teams, it's probably a little bit more run of the mill. You'll have 3 receivers who are going to, outsnap your number 2 tight end, but that's not how the Steelers operate. And we kind of knew that going into the season. We know this offense under Arthur Smith was going to rely on versatile players, and they have a lot of versatility. Even within that versatility, Chris, they have a lot of guys who do different things. So it really fits to Arthur's personality. And you mentioned it. You could just see with the snap counts that the receivers right now, 3 through 5 or 3 through 6, whatever it is, those are the guys who are kind of lower on the totem pole right now, and they just like their tight end group a little bit more than that right now in terms of how they drop the offense from week to week.
I agree. I want to talk about bigger picture now, though, with this AFC North situation, because injuries have been abound, not just to the Steelers, but to a lot of their rivals. And we'll talk about the onset there, along with a quarterback change that's happening in the AFC North. We'll talk about all that next here on the North Shore Drive podcast. Chris Carter, Ray Fittipaldo of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the North Shore Drive podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's Ray Fittipaldo. This show is also brought to you by Olivian Numismatic Rarities, where if you're looking to diversify your playbook beyond the stock market, right here in Pittsburgh's Shadyside neighborhood, Olivian Numismatic Rarities helps investors and collectors build wealth with rare coins, paper money, and precious metals. Whether you're stacking gold and silver, building a tangible asset portfolio, or selling an inherited collection, ONR brings integrity and expertise to every transaction. Stop by their premier gallery at 5833 Ellsworth Avenue in Shadyside, or learn more at onrcoins.com. That's onrcoins.com, or call them at 412-900-COIN today. We're also brought to you by Goldberg, Persky, and White. If you're diagnosed with mesothelioma or lung cancer, call your local attorneys at Goldberg, Persky, and White. For over 40 years, their firm has represented thousands of lung cancers and mesothelioma victims. Call them at 1-800-COMPLEX or visit gpwlaw.com for a free consultation. All right, Ray, let's talk about this division right now. Some news that came out this morning, actually Wednesday morning, that the Browns are sitting Joe Flacco in favor of Dylan Gabriel, the rookie they drafted out of Oregon. I know that there's people out there in the Shador Sanders camp that are probably going nuts right now, but I know we're gonna get to the Ravens and the Bengals in the sec, but the Steelers, that's the next team the Steelers get to play. The Browns now they go to London, I believe, to play the Vikings, who are still overseas. The next two quarterbacks for the Steelers are Dylan Gabriel and unless he gets hurt, Jake Browning for the Bengals. It seems to me that could be a good time for the Steelers to come off a bye and start playing strong against some teams that are still figure something out at quarterback.
Yeah, well, first off, I don't think Kevin Stefanski watches the Mike Tomlin news conference, because if he did, he know that he doesn't want to face Joe Flacco. You could have kept Joe in there for 2 more games and maybe you would have had a shot to beat the Steelers. Hey, listen, they still might have a shot to beat the Steelers, but
who knows?
Your point is well taken. Chris, the Steelers have to take advantage of this schedule here, because once we get past mid-October, it really gets difficult. So, you're going to rest up during the bye, lick your wounds, hopefully get guys like Joey Porter back. Then you mentioned it, likely facing Dylan Gabriel at home at Acrisure. You have to win that game. Now, listen, I know you're on a short week and you're playing in Cincinnati on a Thursday, but come on, you're playing Jake Browning, and anyone who watched that game earlier this week on Monday night knows the Bengals they're in disarray right now. Okay, Jamar Chase and Zach Taylor are fighting on the sidelines. Their defense is god awful. That's another game you have to win. So if they get to 5-1, we're going to talk about the Ravens, but the Ravens have some issues on defense and they got an injured quarterback right now. But if they get to 5-1 at mid-October, they're going to be in great shape to win the AFC North.
I agree, and they have a chance here against two teams that are still trying to figure some things out. You talked about the Browns, the Bengals. Without Joe Burrow, they look like a complete mess. And listen, I was a person here saying at the beginning of the season I didn't believe in this Bengals team, but I also thought Joe Burrow would at least make it to like week 7. But this is what I thought they'd be in danger of being, because their offensive line did not get any better. They can't protect Joe Burrow. We now see that he's out for pretty much the whole season again, his 3rd time in 6 years, and they don't have a good O-line. They don't have a run game. They have some really talented wide receivers, but they don't have a defense that can stop the run, rush the quarterback, or cover the pass. And when all those things are going to happen, they're a bad team. Now, to your point about, then the Steelers need to still find a way to win that game. It would be the first time since Monday night or Thursday night football, became a thing that the Steelers, if they win this game, it'll be their first ever road win against a divisional opponent in the history of them playing Thursday night football. The short week is always tough. The short week on the road is always tough. And the short week on the road against the divisional opponent is always tough. But that is it's funny. It's not a must-win game in the sense that if they lose that game, the whole season's over, but it's a must-win in the sense of if they get that win and the Browns win, like you said, they're 5-1. The Ravens are missing Lamar Jackson for the next 2 weeks. Yeah. That could put the Steelers in a driver's seat position to have a shot to win the division, and it'll only be week 7 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I can almost think back. Like last year, the snow game in Cleveland was on Thursday night, correct?
Road Thursday night football.
And I remember some road games at Baltimore on a Thursday night where the Steelers obviously had issues because they've never won a game like that. But you're right, Chris. If they could find a way to do that, and let's say Jackson misses the next 2 games, and then they get their bye. They get Houston, and then they get the Rams, and then they get their bye. If you're 5-1 at that point, and the Ravens are 2-4, nearing Halloween, I'm sorry, you're going to be in that same position as you were last year, 10-3. The Ravens are going to be behind you, and the pressure is going to be on the Steelers to finally perform and to win the division against their nemesis and their arch rival. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But yeah, to your point, they got to find a way to beat Dylan Gabriel and Jake Browning. If they don't, we're going to be sitting here talking about same old Steelers, right? Losing games we're not supposed to lose, and how that affects them at the end of the season.
It certainly would be the talk. And right now, the talk is they're moving up as far as their odds out there. If you go to FanDuel right now, FanDuel's odds for the Steelers to win the AFC North have jumped up to plus 195. They have the second best odds, and they're getting a lot closer to the Ravens. When the Joe Burrow injury happened, they did jump ahead of the Bengals, but it still was way far off. The Steelers will being plus 195. The Ravens are a minus 150. That's not great odds for the Ravens right now. And granted, I still think the Ravens should be favored to win this division, because even after those two games, if they, like you said, they go 1-1 in these two games without Lamar Jackson, whereas the Steelers, they do have several challenges coming up. They've got after those two Ohio games, they got the Packers, the Colts, the Chargers, the Bills, the Ravens twice after that, the Lions. They have a lot of the tough games. I will say this for the Ravens, they've played a lot of their tough games. Bills, Lions, Chiefs are all losses for them. Rams will be coming up. After this bye, if they get Lamar Jackson back healthy, they get the Bears, the Dolphins, the Vikings, the Browns, the Bengals twice, the Jets, the Steelers twice, the Packers, and the Patriots. I mean, maybe Packers, Patriots, Steelers, Vikings are other tough games, but I don't think that those are as tough as what the Steelers have. There would be space for them to make a run, but they're also going to be missing another key player, Madubuike. Their star defensive tackle. He's gone for the season, and the Ravens defense has been bad as the Steelers defense has been. They've been worse, and I did not think that would happen this season.
I mean, what do you think about when you think about the AFC North? Tough, gritty defense. I mean, the Bengals. I mean, if you looked at the total defense and the scoring defense in the NFL, I'd venture to say, now the Steelers have been better the last 2 weeks. I would venture to say those three teams, and Cleveland's the outlier because Cleveland's probably top five. Right. Those three teams are probably all in the 20s when it comes to giving up yards and giving up points. So what you think about the AFC North annually, what they usually are, I don't know if it's the case this year. I think the Steelers have a chance to get better defensively, but when you look at the Ravens, they just got a ton of issues, and they got injuries on top of that.
The Steelers have the best rated defense as far as points allowed at 98, but that's 21st best in the NFL. Next is the Browns at 102 points allowed. That's 24th best. The Bengals at 119, that's 27th best. And the Ravens in dead last in the NFL, allowing 133 points so far. Per game basis, the Ravens are giving up an average 33.3 points per game. If you had told me that the Ravens defense at any point this season would rank behind the Bengals, I would have told you were smoking. Now, again, granted, they have played the Bills, the Lions, and the Chiefs in three of their first four games. Those are two MVP level quarterbacks and one of the more efficient offenses in the NFL in the Lions. So, I give them that grace. But that's not a great way to start. Now they lost one of their key players up front. They got to pull it together. I think the Ravens are still a talented team, but this is an opportunity for the Steelers. As bad as they started on defense, they've been able to climb their back up to being 21st. They could get their way up into the top 10 soon if they, against these Ohio teams, handle their business. Don't let Dylan Gabriel or Jake Browning find some sort of elixir that makes them a better quarterback all of a sudden. Handle their business, and they could get their way back up in there. And I think that's still the ticket for this team if they want to be that good this year. They need this defense to make it hard on young quarterbacks and on bad quarterbacks and backup quarterbacks. When they get those opportunities, they got to take advantage of them. Early on the season, they almost blew it against Justin Fields. They were able to get that one out. Sam Darnold got the best of them with a few special teams gaffe, and then Calvin Austin's tip in the end zone. They handled their business against Drake May, handled their business against Carson Wentz. They're going to have their opportunity against some of these guys in the next couple of weeks, and they need to get them because, like we said, Packers, no joke. The Colts don't look like they're a joke. The Chargers are always tough with Justin Herbert, and then you still got Bills, Lions, and the Ravens twice, and you're assuming by that point the Ravens probably will have fixed a lot of these issues.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a dogfight. Like you're never going to run away with the AFC North. It's just a division that's always in contention to the very end of the season. And I mean the schedule makers do a phenomenal job. It always seems like it's Steelers Ravens at the end of the season when all the money's on the line. So hopefully it plays out that way again this season. Will be a lot of drama if it does. But it just goes to show you, Chris, what you think is going to happen in August almost never happens, right? You think that it's going to be the Ravens and the Bills, and hey, listen, maybe it still might be, but there's always a surprise or two, and we'll see if the Steelers can be one of those surprise teams. Didn't Dan Orlovsky of ESPN thought they would be 0-6 in October? They might be 5-1. So who knows what sometimes the experts are way off, and like I said, maybe the Steelers, maybe they'll make it a fun season.
I got to tell you, it was fun sitting in Dublin, Ireland, and seeing Steelers fans just like, "Hey, Dan Orlovsky, hey, Dan Orlovsky," and he's like, "I know what I said." But it's so funny to see that. But hey, it's the bye week. And so the Steelers are off, but we will be in the facility. Ray's been talking to players and coaches. We get to talk to some more coaches, including Terrell Austin today, Wednesday. And then we still give you some insights going into the weekend, the bye weeks here. So we're going to take some time to step back, reflect on some things, and then get you ready for next week when the Steelers get back into their actions. Keep it here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette by subscribing at post-gazette.com and subscribe here to the North Shore Drive podcast on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this channel to get all of our daily content that comes out from our writers here at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. We'll see you here soon on the North Shore Drive podcast. Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.